Bethlehem. And then there's another thing. The parents in Bethlehem didn't have the whole life of Christ to think about. But in Newtown, the parents did have the life of Christ to think about. Whether they all did or not, I'm not sure. But there is that difference there. There is, I read in the paper the other day that the American Atheists Association had put up a billboard in Times Square in New York City. And the billboard said, it was talking about Christmas, it said, "Keep the merry." And there was a picture of a laughing Santa Claus. "Keep the merry," it said, "and dump the myth." And there was a picture of the crucified Jesus. They wanted it all Merry Christmas. And they didn't want to take any account of the sadness and sorrow of life. But the Bible takes account of the sadness and sorrow of life. Otherwise it would have just scrubbed out this whole story about Herod and the little boys. And I think it is important for people today to remember that when tragedy occurs, yes, tragedy occurred then at the first Christmas. And people sorrowed then, because there is so much evil in the world, and Jesus, the Prince of Peace, came into the world. And what was the king's reaction? It was to try to kill Jesus. He didn't kill Jesus, but there was a lot of collateral damage when the little children were killed. So there is a difference. But as we look at these stories, we have to realize that Jesus came into the world to bring peace on earth. And that may be why there was so much violence in Herod's reaction. Because this is a challenge to the evil and the violence of the world. Peace on earth is the message of Christmas. Joy to the world. And we have a right to emphasize those things, and certainly we do emphasize those things. But let's face the fact that not everybody does that at Christmas. We know people who have died recently, died perhaps in the natural course of events. That brings some sadness at Christmas time. And other things bring sadness as well. Loneliness, poverty, all these things can happen at Christmas time. I don't want to sort of pour cold water on it all, because we like to celebrate. And I'm going to celebrate. One of my granddaughters just flew in this morning. And by tomorrow, we'll have all my 4 grandchildren and their parents around us here in Atlanta. And we shall rejoice, and we shall praise God. Yes, and we shall be merry. And we shall thank God that Jesus did bring peace. Jesus brought peace to the hearts of many people. And Jesus brought joy, and brings peace and joy still. But not complete peace, not complete joy. There may be, people may have peace in their hearts, but there is not peace in Syria today. And there is not peace within this country. For we have been reminded that although 20 people were killed in 10 minutes way back in Newtown, about 8 children are killed in gun-related incidents every day. So since that tragedy, an unannounced tragedy has taken the place in many, many people's lives. No, the peace that is promised to us has not wholly come to this country domestically. We may have peace in our hearts. We may have much more peace than we had, say, during the Second World War. But there is still much violence and discord in our midst. And what do we do about it all? You know, Joseph did something when he was told that Herod was after the infant Jesus. He took Mary and Jesus and went to Egypt. He got out of the way until Herod died, and then he came back again. Well, we're in a different situation. Because our problem isn't just concentrated in one wicked king. Our problem is more widespread. We know that if we just say we go out of the country until the trouble has passed over, we might stay out of the country forever, because that violence has not left this country. And so the fact is that we can't necessarily respond to the situation as Joseph did, but some response we need to make. Now, I know it's a controversial matter, and I can't start outlining what we ought to do. What I would say this is, that if we really are disciples of Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, we need to be doing something. We can't just sit back and say, oh, these things can happen. So this year, the Christmas emphasis is a bit different from what it usually is. But it is a factor that needs to be injected into our Christmas celebrations. So often, Christmas can be a time